right, today we're going to build this super simple entryway bench. This was done by Fish Over Chicks last year, and I built that one over there last year after I saw their video. It's super simple, easy to do, uses only one 2x10, and you can finish it however you want. They were selling theirs for I think $75 unfinished, and then they were selling them finished like this for somewhere around $100 or something like that. So when I built the one over there last year, I used a different method than they used, and I'm using a more differenter method this time. Even though it looks exactly the same as theirs, it is built completely different. I really love the design of this. It's so simple and easy to do. I think it's a great project for anybody that's starting out to make something that looks more complicated than it actually is. You can build them super fast as well. Anyway, let's get to it. All right, so here we have our 2x10x8. That's all we're gonna need for this build. I'm going to talk real quick about lumber selection, because you're going to buy a board this expensive, you should be able to pick through and choose the best one. First of all, make sure it's nice and straight. Second of all, if you can take one of these with you, if you know what your moisture reading should be in your area. Ours is usually about 16, is about as dry as it gets. This one's been sitting in here for months, so it's well acclimated. You're going to want to look at the end and make sure that you don't have the center of the tree in there. The further out you can get, the better. This one's not ideal, but it's nice and straight, so it should be fine. Because you don't want this thing to twist after you build it, because that's a real pain. Okay, so we're just going to cut this into 4 pieces, and then we will put the angles on after we've done that, because we don't know which side of the board we're going to want. I don't just want to flip and flip and flip and then be stuck with an ugly side out. So let's start with the first piece, which is the biggest one. Okay, so this is going to be our top. So we want to make sure that we got a nice piece for the top. I want to kind of avoid that. It's a big nasty knot there. So even this, though this side's kind of rough right now, after we sand it, it's going to look pretty good. We're going to measure out 34. Okay, so the next one is going to be the bottom shelf, which is going to be 28. So I'm going to measure out 28 and make sure I don't have any bad spots, which it looks like I have a knot right there. I should be hitting the edge of it. It should be okay. And remember, this is going to be angled as well, so there'll be a little bit more come off of it. Okay, so we're going to make the last 2 cuts at 16 3/4. Okay, now we are going to tilt the saw to 22.5 degrees. So I'm just going to use this angle finder to make sure I get it right, but the presets on the saw are pretty good. 22.5. 22.5. All right, good enough. Okay, so we have our sides here, or our legs, if you will. And these ones, we're going to want to cut them parallel. So we're going to go from the point on each one. Okay, and then we're flipping it over and we're making sure that we're going the same angle. Okay, so it's going to stand like that. Okay, so I want to make sure this part's on the inside, because that's not looking good. Okay, and just make sure they're both the same. And then for the bottom, we're going to pick our nicer side to go up, which is going to be this one. Okay, so we're going to put the bottom side up. Okay, there's our 4 pieces. Okay, so if you look at the bottom piece, you can see they're both angled in towards each other. You need to make sure that's the way it goes, because it's going to be like this. So I'm going to put in 6 pocket holes now. And I need to make sure that I put them on the right side, which is that side. Okay, now as for usual, whenever I'm building something, as the pieces are like this, I'm going to sand everything down, probably down to 120 or 150 grit, and then we'll put it together. All right, just like that, it's already got the finish on it. So what happened is I sanded everything down to 120, and then I decided I better put the finish on it last night, because it takes a while for it to dry, especially this time of year, because it's kind of cool. So in order to have it ready for release on time, I finished the base coat here of the dark walnut, and now we're going to assemble it, and then I'll do the final finishing. Okay, so here's our 2 sides. So yeah, so I made sure I get this knot here. I'm going to put it at the top just so it's harder to see, because the top will cover it up. So just kind of get that oriented before you go to the assembly. Okay, so we're going to get ready with our pocket screws. Okay, so I'm going to go up 3 inches from this bottom corner here to the bottom of the shelf. It doesn't have to be perfect, but you do want it to be the same on both sides. So I've just set my slide ruler, so I'm just going to do that. Line it up and then put the screws in. So I'm going to put a bit of glue on. I'm not going to get too carried away with the glue, because it is end grain. And I'm putting 3 screws in, so it should hold it pretty good. Okay, I'm going to get into position. Because of the angle, I have to hold it with my hand as a clamp. Make sure you get your clutch setting on here. Set about halfway so you don't over torque it. Double check at the bottom. Okay, now I'm just going to flip it over. Do the same thing on the other side. Okay, so I'm just going to wipe off the excess glue that squeezed out. It's not a ton. Oh, it's pretty rock solid. It's just like that. Okay, so now to have the top on so that there's no fasteners on through the top, and then make sure that it's nice and strong here because we are going on the end grain without the help of the screws, because I could put the screws up there and then you could get the plugs and do it that way. I don't have any of the plugs right now, so I'm just going to put dowels in. I got my 3/8 bit, and I got my drill block to keep the hole nice and straight. And then make sure you use these fluted dowels so the glue has a place to go. And then I'm just going to set the depth of the base of the drill bit a little bit more than halfway. So then I'm going to take a piece of tape. I'm just going to wrap it around. Give me an idea where to stop. Okay, so I'm going to put this on here. All right, now I'm going to take these dowel pins and place them like such in the holes. All right, so then we take our top and we just set it ever so gingerly on there. We need to measure to get it even on both sides. All right, so it turns out that it's 6 5/16 to be even on both sides, but make sure you double check on yours because it might be just a hair different. Okay, so we got our position there. And then, before I get too carried away, when you take it off and flip it down, make sure you make note of which side is which. That way it's going to save you less screwing around later. So in order to make this more camera friendly, I'll just do this. And I don't know if you can see the little points there, but they are there. This is why we're using a brad point drill bit, right? So we just put the point right in the hole. Okay, so now I'm going to take this piece of tape off and set the depth again. I suppose I could have just left it as it was, but I want to go a little bit. I just want to go almost exactly halfway. Because basically, the way I'm going to put them in the top, it's going to bottom out. And then when you put them in here, you're going to have a little bit extra for the glue to go down. So that's why I wanted to make this just a little bit tighter for the top. Okay, let's see if I can get these out. Okay, so now I'm just going to fire up the vacuum to clean out the holes. Okay, so just to make sure before we get too far into it, we're going to make sure everything lines up. Oh, one thing that I forgot to mention, when I was finishing it, I was sanding it with the 80 grit to start with. I did put a round over on the top corner, just with the sander, because I can't find my router. But yeah, that's why the round over's on there. All right, so I'm going to make sure I get the glue in the holes. I'm not going to totally go all the way down with these. I'm going to push them in. I'm not going to pound them in. That way they got a little room to expand. This is the glue I'm using, by the way. Okay, this is going to be obviously subject to your situation, but this seems like it's going to work for me, so I just put that one on there ever so slightly until I get this one on. Let's clean out the little bit of squeeze that I got up here. All right, there, built. Just let it dry and then we'll come back and finish it. All right, so here we are, and I'm going to make it a two-tone paint job to match that one that we did last week and to match our coffee table. So this is why I've stained it all first with the dark walnut, is because I'm going to put a light coat on with this acrylic latex paint that is tinted some off-white color that came with the house that we bought. And I'm just going to show you the technique that I use real quick here. Obviously do this any way you want, but this is how I've been doing this. So just get it on the brush there and just kind of blob it on. And then I kind of swirl it around and get the, you want to make sure that the brush is dry enough that you're kind of doing that effect there. And then work it to whatever, coverage you want it to be. And that's really all there is to it. Just keep moving the brush strokes around. to get the swirl patterns that you want. Okay, so there's the one we just did. Here's the one I did last year. I'm going to explain the differences real quick. With this one, I drilled through the top, and then I just put dowels in there and cut them off and used them as plugs before I finished it. Now, if you want to do this finish, you can see our video on the little stool right there. It's finished exactly the same way. And then this one's finished exactly the same as that one. All right, so the other thing is a final note here. I put felt pads on the bottom because this is extremely unlikely to warp because it's all sealed up and the wood was already climatized and everything. You can also put the adjustable feet on in case you're selling this to somebody and you're worried about it not going on their floor evenly. Okay, all of the materials and hardware, everything except for the wood is going to be linked below in the description. Still using one board, you can customize the size a little bit. If you make the top a little bit shorter, then you can make the legs a little bit longer. You guys get the idea. All right, so one of the reasons why we did such an easy project, and the next couple are going to be kind of easy too, is because we got a lot going on around here. We're doing the renovation of the shop, and we're trying to build up our DIY channel, which we're going to link to at the end here. You're not going to see anything other than this on the woodworking channel, but everything that's happening around that you can't see on camera, you can see on the DIY channel if you go there and subscribe and follow all of our renos. So I'll show you all my tips and tricks for doing renovation, drywall taping and painting and all that fun stuff. And so please like and give us a comment. Tell us what you think about this and share it. And if you wouldn't mind, help us get that subscription up to 7,000. That's where we're headed for right now. We're trying to get a channel to grow up to 10 by the end of the year. All right, so thanks for watching. And we're going to give you a link over here for our DIY channel. And we're going to link over here up there for our other projects related to this. For those who are curious, we are going to do a video on my coffee table. I'm going to build one in the next couple months. And we got a couple more benches to come.